All right. Well, thank you all for coming here in the room. I don't know. I have a lot of way of introduction, but good to be finally meeting, and thank you, Amy, for hosting this here in Norman. She's been asked for a long time, so we finally pulled the trigger. And this is a great location. Nice little room here. So, well, we'll talk about what's coming up next when I'm done here. But so we'll just go ahead and jump into the presentation here. As you see, JBang is how that is pronounced. I'll get to that in a minute. But JavaScript, the way it's meant to be, it's a neat utility that I've started using quite a bit recently through coworkers that tend to use it. So I thought I'd share and maybe help you guys out a little bit. So I think most of you have seen this slide, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But basically, I've done some things, I've written some things, and I do some things. So I can talk about any of those later if you want. I will say at the end, just because it's a terrible joke that I'm kind of proud of, that I enjoy scrapping, slapping, and smoking. So it's terrible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty awful. But also, there's a picture of my family, most of which are here, and Noah there in the middle is on his way. So most of you have probably seen that picture before too. And there's the rest of my family. That's Sophie. She's helped me write some wildfly code at Christmas time, you can see. Anyway, important but kind of fun. So, what is JBang? What brings us together tonight for that? It's a tool that makes it easy to write and run Java scripts, not JavaScript, it's important, without the traditional overhead. If you've ever tried to write a Java command line tool, you've gone through this, all the JDK, create the project, Gradle, Maven, whatever, package it, and then maybe run a shell script to wrap it so it sets everything up for you. It's kind of tedious. This takes all the work out of it. It's literally, or it can be as simple as a single file. It was inspired by the new JBang feature supporting Java 10. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but as of Java 10, which was released like 3 weeks ago, it seems like 3 weeks they're cranking them out. But you can now, in your JavaScript, in your Java source file, put this little JBang, if you're familiar with that term, goes back to Unix days, the hash bang / user in Java, give the source, and then when you run that, it will actually compile your Java file and run it for you. Super cool. Kind of limited because you're sort of, unless you want to jump through some hoops, you're limited to JDK classes only. You have to manage the class path yourself, which is where JBang kind of shines. This was written by a French guy, Max, Red Hat, or former Red Hat, now at IBM. It says, from there came JBang, which is a bad spelling of how the shebang is pronounced in French. So, I have listened to him speak, and he does pronounce it JBang, maybe for the benefit of English speakers. I don't know, but that's what we're going to go with. So, installation is super simple. There is some setup, but you do it once for all your scripts, not per project. So that's kind of nice. And you've got options, like anything in the open source world, many options. The manual install, for those of you that like to really tinker and keep things clean, download the latest binary release, and that's a link, and when you get the slides there, you can click on that, or you can go to the website, click download. Download the zip, extract it, add it to your path, just like any good downloadable executable. Not a big fan of that because it's harder to manage. So I prefer using a package manager, and here's where your options kind of come out of the woodwork. You can actually use JBang itself to install it. And if you've installed SDKman or Homebrew, you're kind of familiar with this. Where you download a shell script off the internet and pass it through in the bash, and then it does stuff. And that works, and I can assure you it's safe to do, generally speaking. You don't just run random scripts off the internet. So when you see that, and again, I can attest to its safety, but you'd be wise to look at that just to make sure it's not going to do something you don't want to your system, but I have written it, it's fine. You can also use whatever that is on Windows. I'm fortunate enough not to use Windows in my daily life, so that is some sort of an advanced PowerShell. Oh, yes, PS. It sure is PowerShell. So let's go download a PowerShell script and do something to your Windows system. So, something. There's also SDKman, which I believe is how I have it installed here. If you install SDKman, if you don't know what that is, that's a separate discussion, but super cool system for managing packages. I think it runs on Windows, maybe like the Windows Linux. Well, it does run on Mac. I think if you're using the Windows shell for Linux, you can use WSL, but maybe not in Windows proper. And there's Homebrew. You can also, if you're a Homebrew fan, I actually have both installed. Either one of those work. And then you've got a myriad of other options. RPM, Docker, Chocolatey, and Scoop if you want a more native Windows package. NPM and pip if you're into JavaScript and Python. I don't really use either of those, so I'm not sure how that works. But you have some options to install that. Alright, so writing your first script, super easy. You can, of course, do it all by hand. It's just a text file. But JBang does have a command to initialize the file for you. And it's just as simple as JBang init, give it the name you want, and let it do its thing. Now well, I'll show you the code in a minute. Once it's done, then you say JBang demo.java, and it's going to process that file, download anything it needs to, compile it, it'll cache it, and then it will run it for you. So the next time you run it, it'll be much faster. It doesn't have to compile every time. And I think internally it's going to look at the file and rhythm cache and recompile it for you. But you don't have to pay that penalty every time. Then it's going to run hello world. So what does that look like? Easy peasy. This is the generated code. That's all it does. And you notice there at the top, the // user bin and JBang. If you've done any shell scripting, that looks pretty familiar, except for that, the double slash at the beginning rather than the normal shebang there. You can use the shebang there if you want. However, once you do that, you're going to break any sort of like a normal Java compiler. It'll kind of freak out a little bit. JBang, I think, supports that, if I recall. It'll kind of clean that up for you, and there's plugins or templates you can use to get both. But if you did have a proper JBang, then you could just make that Java file executable and just run it, and it would do the right thing. So this is compiler friendly, as we'll see in just a minute. As we load stuff in the IDE. It does a weird static import. I'm not sure why it does it like that, but it does. And then it's just public class. So this static void main, that's your entry point. Is not caught up to the new Java, where you don't need the declare class, you just declare a method. That might come, but this supports all the way back to Java 8 or 11 or something. So if you're still in those environments, you can still use this. Now, what I was going to say about the class, you notice that it is all lowercase. And as a good Java developer, you know that violates the holy coding standards where it's going to be Pascal based. You can do that if you want. You can make it Pascal case if you want. But the general pattern is that we do that in lowercase so that when we run this from the command line, it's lowercase like a good command line script ought to be. So it's up to you. But however you case that in your class name will be what your script looks like for the most part. We'll get to that also. So I'm going to try to spend most of the time tonight going through writing a script rather than going through a whole bunch of slides. That's kind of boring. So we'll try to build a script together. And I meant to print it off so I could read it and type it in so you wouldn't have to watch me fumble through it, but I forgot. So before we get to that, though, JBang does offer a number of templates so that you don't have to do a lot of this setup yourself. This isn't all of them. I kind of trimmed it down because some of them are repetitive and I just think all that interesting. An agent, I believe, is going to be like a Well, I don't know if that's a Java agent or if that's an AI thing. Honestly, I really don't know. But you can create one to find out. The CLI template we're going to use tonight, GPT, if you want to write a script to interact with GPT, that will set that up for you. Hello is your basic Hello World template. JBang catalog, I did run this one. We'll get into catalogs in a little bit. And it created a JSON file with an empty JSON object. It was really underwhelming. So I'm not sure what that template really gets you. QCLI and QREST. As you can imagine, this comes from a former Red Hatter, now IBMer, on the Quarkus team. So there's a lot of Quarkus influence on things. You don't have to use it, but he lives in that world daily, so it's a template. So what we're going to build tonight, utility called Maven Search. There's a billion of these out there, I know. I even have one installed via SDK man called NCS. Have you ever used that script? It's super nice. If you need to find what jar file provides a class, when you've ever run something that says class not found exception, well, where does that come from? NCS is the script that lets you query Maven Central and get a list of all the artifacts that provide that class. And it works great. It's a little one of the things I don't like about it is when I get that class not found exception, or sometimes there are slashes in the name, and then when providing the fully qualified class name, I can't remember, do I have to do slashes to the dots? I never can remember, so like, well, we'll just write one that fixes that. Maven Central Search, we're going to search for a variety of parameters. Class name, if you just a simple class name, fully qualified, whatever format you want it in for the most part. Group ID, artifact ID, and we will specify the number of rows to display. Pretty simple. All right, so to get pagination would be nice to have. Probably not going to do that tonight. I guess I just haven't gotten to it, but I'll do it. Yeah, help yourself to pieces. You wanted to make it quite subtle entrance, didn't you? That's fine. Glad you're here. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the JBang command -t CLI, tell it to use the CLI template, create the Maven search.java file, and then we're immediately going to run it and see what that gets us, which is going to be that output. Then we're going to edit the file. All right. Just a pro tip: is that too small? Is that too small still? How's that? Look good back there? All right. When I'm doing like demo stuff, I like to go to the temp directories. The next time I reboot, it just deletes it all. I don't have to remember to clean it up, because I come back weeks later in my source directory like, is this an important file? Years later sometimes, and I can't remember if it's not, so it stays there for years more. So, but just remember, if you do this, this was not on the agenda, but if you do this, don't reboot your computer in the middle of the demo, because you're going to lose everything you just created. So, CLI Maven srch.java, not Java. Oh, I forgot the command. See, I didn't reboot my computer, so when I was experimenting earlier, it was still there. So we're going to init, use the CLI template, Maven search.java. So if I initialize, you can now run it. So if we run that, having done nothing else, result dependencies, it's going to compile. There we go. Dash H. So Pico CLI, if you see this reference there, is a Java utility or Java library for writing CLI scripts. It makes it super easy to get all your parameters, your options in the command line, rather than having to get that string of arguments. If you've ever done that in the public static void main string array, and parsing through that manually, this does all the work for you. It's type safe, it's annotated, it's beautiful. So that's what Pico CLI does for us, and that's what generates that help. Now to edit that, you've got a couple options. You can edit it, put it directly in a text editor. It's just a Java file. Edit it, do whatever you want to. But JBang does offer this option, and that's going to open it in the editor of your choice. You can configure that VS Code or whatever. I've just got IntelliJ installed, so it's going to open that. And the B, I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's going to open up, like, it's going to create a project for you. It's a temporary thing, it's in the cache directory, but it'll set up a Maven build and a Google build and stuff so that it integrates more nicely with your editor, and you can run it in theory, import classes. IntelliJ wants to know if I want to trust. Nope, that's the wrong. Someday I'm going to learn those shortcuts for zooming the text. Can you see that okay? Squint real hard. So the file we're actually interested in here is here in the source directory. Notice there's no Java directory, source main Java, you know, so it's not a proper Maven project necessarily. Actually, it doesn't generate Maven, it generates Gradle, which is sort of gross, but you know, to each his own. But there's the source file, and all the rest of the stuff is generated automatically for us by JBang in that temporary directory. But this is a proper project that IDEA can import, and now we can get all of our nice IDE integration. So when it generated that file, it does the typical. Let me do this. Ryan, do you remember what?
Zooms toward the top, right? Accessibility. Right hand column, probably right there. It's 110. 150.
Yeah, let's just
That's great.
let's go for broke there. How's that? Is that better? Thank you. I probably could have found that pretty quick at home, but when you get a whole bunch of eyes staring at you, you go blind. Oh, okay. It's a little bit better, yeah. Yeah, you're getting a sneak peek into how I do my work at home. So JBang is going to, the init sets up that first line, that will make it runnable. And notice this line is technically a Java comment, but that is a JBang directive. And I'll show you a list of those here in just a minute. We define dependencies using the kind of the Gradle style group artifact version GAB from Maven, ironically. So when this runs, JBang is going to look for those directives and say, oh, I need these dependencies, and it's going to download them, put them somewhere, and then when it runs the script, it's going to set up the class path for you with that dependency. So you don't have to manage it. That's all you got to do, which is pretty cool. And the rest of this is just a normal class. I don't go too deep into the Pico CLI stuff, but we're declaring a command. Commands have to implement. I think they can implement runnable, but if you want a little nicer integration with the operating system, you can return error codes, -1, 20, you know, whatever. Implement a callable and have and we've got a number of parameters here. All right, one parameter, we'll have more in a minute. We've got our publish void main, where we actually run it. All this is set up for you, so you don't have to worry about all of this stuff. And then our actual functionality will go right there. So I am going to, I'm going to cheat just a little bit, copy and paste. Maybe. It is a little bit. We'll get to that in just a minute. That is a lot of recent project, and Well, not really. Once you've used it, it stays in there for years and years. Some of those, I'm not sure, are even still on the disk. I'm going to open this in a new window. I'm just going to copy and paste code because, see here, this is a nice example. This is my JBang catalog. I'll come back to what this means in a little bit, but this is the script I've actually written for this. This is the final product. But it's not a proper Java project. There's no POM, there's no Gradle build, there's no ant. I still do use that from time to time. No, I don't use that because that's worse than Gradle. Sorry, Matt. But this is just in a text file, so it doesn't have all the class stuff set up. So you can see a lot of red because the editor doesn't know where to find other classes. But I am going to come here. I'm just going to copy a bunch of these. If I can find the right, there it is. Let's replace some of that. We'll just paste that in there. And now I can, and it's going to want to, there's probably a smart way to do this, but yeah, there you go. So what I've done here is add some command line options. A whole bunch of options. Happy yet? It's not happy because I deleted that. And that's a bit again. I'll put it on the screen one time. So what I've done is define a bunch of options. I give it a short name. This one just has the short name. I give it a description. This is a short name and a long name, also a description. Just a whole bunch of these. Fully qualified class name, group, artifact, number of rows. How you want to sort it, where you want it descending or not. And notice that I've specified the type I want it. Pico will take that parameter, which comes in as a string, and it's going to try to coerce it to whatever it's supposed to be put into. So if I pass a string for the value of rows, it's going to blow up because you can't convert it to an integer. Likewise with Boolean, it's going to expect true or false. I'm not sure how you'd put other options. Yeah, it's probably not gonna like those, but it does let you do type coercion, which is pretty nifty. And now, yep. So now if we come back here and I go back up, do that so you can see it. It rebuilds it, and there's the help file. Pretty cool. See how it's all neatly formatted here. I even added some carriage returns and tabs, so that's a little more readable. That's all done with Pico. So again, this is not really a JBang thing. It's just a reason to build a script and show you how it works. But it's good to know. And if you're writing a script on a Java-based command line script, Pico CLI is a good one to know because you're going to want to get parameters off the command line. So whatever you're writing, unless it's super simple, which may be the case, this is a good tool to have in your toolbox to simplify some of that. I would think so. Yeah. One of the guys I work with has written a JBang script that will parse a surefire report file for you to help you determine what failed and some things. And that's pretty simple. So not a lot of options. It just knows look at target, surefire reports, whatever. So you may not need it. It just kind of depends on the point of the script. And there's actually a lot in the catalog that does not use this, but I find myself using Pico quite a bit. All right, so there's that, and then from this point, it's really just kind of implementing that that command. So I'll just go and copy that whole call method there. And again, could be a smarter way to do this, but I did this over the weekend, so I haven't optimized the code necessarily. But it's pretty straightforward. I'm not trying to be sophisticated or clever here. But if you specify group artifact, going to do that. Let's go class name, fully qualified group. So there's kind of a pecking order. If you specify multiple, it's not going to use them necessarily. And if you want to get real fancy, you can specify group and artifact, group fully qualified. Those don't make a whole lot of sense. You can do some negotiation for which one or what to offer. And finally, if you don't offer any of them, it will print out the command line. So now, the first time I ran this, I didn't do -H. I just did like that. But now if you don't specify any command, it doesn't do anything. What the heck? Well, it should save automatically. Demos are always fun. Well, in theory, it would. In theory, it should automatically return 0. But like I said, I'm not here to talk about Pico. It's just incidental. So there's that. Oh, I might actually. No, I'm in the right file. It's not complaining. It's odd that it's not complaining about those missing method names. Pasted in the wrong file. Now it's complaining. Okay. See, if I'd print this out and type it in, you guys would be watching me type stuff, and that's no fun for anybody. I'll just go and copy the rest of this. I've got 3 windows open doing the same thing. Alright, now we just have 1. Alright. Scroll back up. So we've got this. It's going to handle the options. And then this is the code that actually does the work. Base row, that's pretty easy. I'll come back to that in just a minute. That's going to be a complaint on all of those methods. Output results. You notice here when we send the request, I'm just using the Java HTTP client, so you can use the Apache client or whatever you might really use. But I'm trying to keep it fairly simple. The object mapper, you notice that's missing. And that is a Jackson class. So we can add a dependency, and it needs 3 of them to get everything. So we just add our dependencies. And this is one thing I really like, the JBang integration for IntelliJ. Once I add those dependencies, I can right-click, tell it to sync Gradle to the dependencies. In theory, it's going to, if one dependency synced, so now those errors, oh, it's probably base URL, yep. I should now, well, in theory, you should be able to import those. But it is not going to cooperate with me. That's fine. Base URL. the opposite direction, which it was not doing yesterday. I'm just going to do this. Importing. Okay. Now it's going to let me import. And those are unambiguous imports. IDE is do that for me. So that's kind of normally what I was doing. It would let me right click that and it would sync my directives to the Gradle build, but now for some reason it's going the other way. Maybe plug in that. I try not to update my machine before I do the demo, but yeah. Yeah, that's pretty weird. So it updates on itself behind the scenes sometimes. So now the command is complete. Now that should. Okay. When you update the right file, good things happen. Good rule of thumb to keep in mind. So now we've got, we should have full support for all of this. So just to pick a class, let's find out what offers that one. All right, so now we say we can say fully qualified class name, either from the help or just -f. We paste it in, and if we're lucky, and then network is working. Connection exception. Unresolved address. No. Oh. I didn't log onto the Wi-Fi on this particular machine. I didn't think I would need it. The error was accurate. Alright, so we'll return 400.
Wow.
And there it is. Wow. I think maybe search will rate limit you, so if you just hammer it over and over again, some of these queries took a really long time. I think it was trying to slow me down. And let's sort it descending. And that's sorting. It is not.
I don't know if that's in reasons into the winter voices. Not that many.
Well, at least I think 20 is the default.
Okay.
So at least 20 jars are providing that, which seems kind of weird, but maybe they're just using it, and I'm not sure how the search went out. I don't know. But if we wanted to sort by version, descending, and there's descending. Pretty cool, huh? Now, what I have found when doing this, I don't know if you do a lot of shell scripting. I've lived in the Unix, Linux, Mac OS world for a long time. So anything I do repeatedly, I tend to script, because good programmers are lazy, they say. So in the bash world, typing output from one command to another things is super easy to do. So that's super flexible, but there are some things, substring, string comparison, REST requests and getting, it's kind of weird and awkward. So I think, oh, well, I'll use Java to write that. But now I lose some of those nice things you get from the Unix world. So you probably find that things are a little weird at first as you start, assuming you start writing things, interacting with processes. The newer Java versions of nice process builders to help you interact with that. there's some utilities that you may find are just not available in Java, so you get some stuff, all your Java experience you can leverage, but you lose some stuff from the shell scripting world. So it's kind of a trade-off, but for me, for anything real complicated like this, writing this as a shell script would probably not be too terribly bad with curl or HTTP or something. But I can then, as I add pagination, whatever you want to do, you can download stuff with the command of the REST API. I find it easier to do with Java. So for more complex stuff, it really does come in handy. So all that said, that's the basic JBang script. There's not much to it. I mean, there are more. There's always a little more advanced stuff that you can debug. I think it was. Four. I'm not going to attach just yet because it'll take off running. For breakpoint, we're going to attach. And now I'm running from the command line, and I can step through and see why my code is blowing up or not. So that's pretty cool. Let it finish. There's some things like that you can get into. They're kind of neat. But there's some other terms I want to kind of introduce you to. Just real quick, the directives. These are all of them, but there's a number of them. Dependencies, you can specify repositories, like for and has like an internal repository that we use, or if you have your own company repo or whatever, you can specify that, and it'll search as well. You can specify a Java version. If you want this script requires Java 24, then you put that at the top. And when JBang runs that script, say you're running on Java 17, it's going to say, oh, well, this needs 24. I believe it'll download the JDK for you, install it, and run your script using that. You can use the preview directive there to enable preview features. I can't think of one offhand, but they're always, every 6 months they release a new JDK version of that stuff that's available in preview. If you'd like access to that, that's how you do that. If you want to write your script in Kotlin or Groovy, specify specific versions of those languages. You can also write JBang scripts in those. Pretty cool. There's a bunch of others. If you want to override the main entry point for whatever reason, add a description to your script. Include additional sources, external files. So if you've got especially like with the Quarkus integration, if you do Quarkus at all, there's an application.properties file that you can put your configuration in, and this will make sure that those files specified are available at runtime for you to look up in your class path as you normally would. Link to documentation. I've not seen an example of that, so I don't know what that looks like. But you know it's there, so if you find yourself needing that, you know what to look for. Sometimes that's the important part. Yeah. All right, so quasi-advanced, like I told you, there's more to it. Right now, if I run this script, I have to be in the directory, JBang, Maven search, whatever. However, if I were in the root directory and wanted to do that, you can't find the script, right? You don't want to always be in the directory of your script. So what I can do is JBang alias add Maven search. Forgot to delete the old one. We'll force it. You can see where to put that. Put it in the catalog. We'll come back to that in just a minute. So now, if I go, pick some random directory, I can say and search. No work. So it looks up in the catalog, find out where that script is actually stored, and can run it. Now you notice I already have the alias there, and sometimes you run it, especially if you start using a bunch of catalogs, which we'll get to. You're going to find common names are already used. So when I add the alias, I can overwrite the name. I think I can make sure I have it. Yep. Alias foo added. So now I can come back here. JBang foo. There it is. So if you have multiple scripts and names, or you're experimenting with a new version, you can override the name. You saw there in the help, there's you've got quite a number of options you can add. If you're curious on those, you can play with that. That allows you to run that script from anywhere. Now, one thing that is also kind of annoying, but a minor thing, is now I have to type JBang foo. Well, I don't really like that at all. Well, aliases, easy to launch JBang script, provide the shorthand. There's an example. Again, these slides are remaining there for reference for later. All of this stuff comes from the documentation, so you can find it, but it's a little more concise. JBang hello. JBang has the concept of an app, which sounds a little more grandiose than it really is, but what else do you call it? But what that does is allow us to install the script as a system command, run it from anywhere, just like it's a native script. So your first step is JBang app setup, and that is going to configure your environment to add a certain directory to your path. I'm assuming it works on Windows. Again, I haven't tried it, but it does work on Linux and Mac. And once you've done that, you just say JBang app, tell it to install, override the name if you want to, and give it the location of the script, which could be local directory, or as you see here, a script out on the internet. And again, just like downloading shell scripts and running them, you should probably look at the source first to make sure you trust who's giving you that script. But you can do that. And the neat thing about that is now if I were to install the app and then type hello, it's going to fetch that script from the internet. It's going to compile it with all its dependencies that are specified and run it locally. And that's how catalogs work, which we'll look at here in just a minute. Now we can just run that with hello. So to see that in action, JBang app install -name bar Maven search. There we go. So now, and that's why we use the lowercase, so it just feels more natural for command line junkies. Pretty nifty. So a JBang catalog, again, kind of grandiose. It's not like a Sears and Roebuck catalog, but it's just it's a list of aliases. It can either be local or remote. So a catalog is a list of aliases. Can be remote, but again, make sure you trust the source, because it is going to download, compile, and run without asking questions once you add it. You can see a list of the if you want to see your list of aliases, JBang alias list, you can see foo and Maven search. They both want the same thing, but that's fine. If you want to get rid of an alias, I believe it's remove foo. We're going to remove Maven search as well, just grins, and it's all done. So catalogs, there are a number of built-in catalogs. I'm not sure what most of these offer, but I decided it was important enough to offer. The JBang Dev, JBang Hub are JBang's own catalog utilities. We've got stuff for interacting with the H2 database, Eclipse Foundation stuff, Debian profiling. Jupyter Java, if you do Jupyter notebooks, maybe Veniverse, that may actually have these scripts that we just built. But you don't use someone else's stuff, you want to write your own. And some Quark stuff, and I just added a test catalog there. You add the catalog just like adding an alias, JBang catalog add, give it a name if you want, and then the URL. And then you can see the list of aliases provided by that. It's the alias list, and give the name of the catalog. So if we wanted to see what JBang Hub offered, not a whole lot. Here we go. So Bootstrap, bouncing logo. I don't know most of these do. I have to actually click on the link and read the script. But notice it says Bootstrap at JBang dev. Just like locally, if you write a bunch of scripts and you may have some name collisions, you're almost certainly going to run into name collisions as soon as you start adding a number of remote catalogs. The way you get around that is you JBang script name at catalog. So if JBang dev and JBang hub both have Bootstrap, it will know which one to pull that from. You can, which again, I guess that's kind of tedious to type both, and that's where you can add an alias and add a specific alias for that script for a given catalog. JBang alias. I was going to abbreviate that, but well, we'll just call it Bootstrap 2. Add. There we go. Now if we look at our aliases, I can call Bootstrap 2. I can't call it that way because I didn't install the app. I can do that. I'm not going to install the app, but you get the idea though. You can disambiguate by you telling which catalog it's coming from. And there's that syntax. All right, so back to catalogs. Yes. JBang will search for a JSON file describing your catalogs, and this is the basic order that it's going to search. It's going to look in your current directory. If you can't find one, it's going to look in for a file called JBang catalog in a directory called .jbang in your current directory. Failing that, it's going to go up one directory, do 1 and 2 again. Failing that, it's going to go up again, do 1 through 2. As you can see, in step 4, it's going to do that until it gets all the way to the root file system, until it finds something. Kind of like get will keep crawling up until it finds the .get directory. Same kind of concept there. Failing that, it's going to look in your home directory, .jbang. If you're already in your home directory, it'll catch that steps 1 through 4. But if you're in the temp directory or your root directory or opt or whatever, the very first one it finds. Yeah, that's right. And when I was kind of tinkering with setting things up, I tried to add things to a catalog. I forgot I was in the directory for the catalog I have on GitHub, so it was adding all these things to the file it was wanting me to commit to, which is not what I wanted, so I had to change directories and add it. So, you know, you're going to get caught with things like that. So the catalog, I've got most of these remote catalogs you see are just GitHub repos. We're just pointing to it. I thought I had a slide. Oh, I do have a slide somewhere. Ah, there in the summary. Yeah. Like I moved it around today. I kind of forgot. So I have a GitHub project that is called JBang Catalog, and I've added that to my it's the source for this, what we just saw. It's got a license file, all your typical GitHub stuff, and then the JBang catalog JSON file. And really, I mean, there's not much to it. It's got a description, it's got a list of aliases, which is weird because aliases is an object with a bunch of properties on it rather than a list with a bunch of JSON objects, but whatever. But that's what's going on, and I just have the one, and so I think you can find your own templates if you want. Then I commit that to GitHub, I push it, and then I can say JBang catalog add. And notice it's kind of hard to see. So let me. Nope, not that one. All right. The URL here is just GitHub user content. Once you go to GitHub, you can look at the file and click raw, and that's basically the link to it. Most of those JBang catalogs are hosted that way. Now, the neat thing is, and I'm not sure why he did this, but you can actually have a Java file on your website, and it will run. We'll come here. It's yeah. Hope I have the syntax right. It's goofy, but you know, it is. I actually, it's playing twice. That's nice. I actually looked at the source for how in the world is it doing that, and he wrote the source and he formatted it like a tree. But in the source, he's actually fetching the source for his own file from GitHub and displaying it line by line, sleeping between each line and playing it an MP3 in the background. It's pretty goofy. I think there's another script out there, but you can do that if you want to. And I don't know why you would want to, but and I think in case you really want to do it, I believe jbang.dev/tree/main.java, I think, is the actual. I was going to look, but I don't want to listen to that song again. Yeah. There's nothing there, so it should get an error. But that's that's the syntax. Unknown catalog. Well, maybe that may be in the default. I don't know. But anyway, you can do things like that. To create a catalog, though, just to show you what I did. So let me create another directory. Call it catalog. We'll move. See there, I scripted mcd. I want to make a directory in cd to it, so I've got an alias to make directory in cd because I was tired of. Not in JBang, no. No, that might be overkill. So now here in the catalog directory, I've just got my JBang script. So if I want to create that catalog that I want to push to GitHub, I would just create an empty file, catalog.json. Now I can say JBang alias add Maven search. Oh yeah, I don't want to change the name, just do that. And added it to the JBang catalog JSON in my current directory. So now I can add that to Git, push it to my repo, and share it. And it looks suspiciously like the one in my GitHub repo. But if you don't specify, or if you don't create that empty file, it's going to start walking up till it finds the first catalog file and add it to that. Or default, if it can't find any of them, it will create the one in your home directory and add it. So that, and then you can say, tell people, here's my JBang catalog, add it, have fun. So I mean, there are nuances and little tips and tricks, but that's basically I closed that file again, didn't I? I sure did. I didn't mean to. All right. Yep, tool for writing easy run command line scripts, leverages existing Java tooling ecosystems, supports external dependencies and resources. I will say, and someday I'm going to see if I can figure out how to fix this, but if you have a script that does depend on external resources, it does not work if it's remote. Like JBang can't resolve the files to that remote file system, which is kind of a shame, but I'm sure there's a good reason for it. It still seems like a fun challenge to solve. Easily shareable. Yeah, so links, jbang.dev is the website. There's not a lot to it, so it's nice and clean. Got documentation there. This is probably the most helpful part. Not just your basic help, but writing scripts, debugging script directives, templates, organizing. You can. I didn't show this, but could I close that file? It's going to complain about not finding stuff. But down here at the bottom, I have some private static classes that I added. Comparator, got some Java records, so that I can use Jackson to take that JSON and create objects. If I wanted to, I could move these into external files and then just specify like the directory / sources model / and it'll pick those up for me. If you have a lot of files and you don't want them, or a lot of classes, you don't want them all in one file. You can't do that if you want. I just didn't feel the need to do that here. But that is an option if you want. I don't know how that works as far as the remote catalog, if it has the same issue with external files. It may. But it's an option for you. If you run it locally in your local catalog, that shouldn't have an issue. You can build a native image if you want to. The neat thing about JBang too, there we go. If you just really want to use draw VM and create an actual OS-specific native image, you can do that. As you saw, it actually starts up fairly quickly, even being just compiled Java. But you may want to do that. This supports that. Also, if your script grows to the point where you think, maybe I want to make a proper project out of this, you can export that to a Maven or a Gradle project, and it'll create the POM or the Gradle build file for you, and you can then manage it that way. You can create a jar file and distribute it as a jar. A bunch of different options for you, depending on how you want to do that. IDE integration. You can specify the editor. Live editing. I've not done anything with that, so I can't really tell you. There's the IDEs that JBang supports. VS Code, if you're into that. Some people like it. I won't argue. Sandbox, that's what that dash B does. B is for box. Which I kind of like. NeoVim and Emacs, which I will tell you are not actual IDEs, no matter how many plugins you add. And the G and GIF is soft. So anyway, this is all documentation. There's an app store here, which again, I think is a little more grandiose than it sounds. It's basically just a list of aliases and catalogs that they're aware of. But this is a place you can go and shop for scripts that you might find interesting. There's a lot in there. I've kind of scrolled through some. You can see the tiny little scroll bar right there as you scroll through. So there's a lot to look at. So you might find something in there that is helpful for you. You don't have to write it, or if you're looking for inspiration, with a real keyboard, I could have pressed home, but that's what I get for having a small keyboard. So that's basically it. I can answer questions, or we can try things and see if it jumps the rails or what. Any questions, comments, anything you'd like to see blow up? Well, like I said, primarily I've used scripts that other guys have written, like that Surefire thing for, because I work on the Wi-Fi application server, and we have a whole bunch of tests, and sorting through those is kind of difficult. So we've got a script I haven't used in a while, so I honestly can't remember what it does offhand, but we've got some scripts internally that we'll use. So when this Maven search is probably the first full one that I've written from scratch myself. I've been mainly a consumer of some internal stuff, but I found it to be super helpful. I knew you'd ask that. It's like telling someone to be funny on the spot. I mean, other than that Surefire, that's the one that's really coming to mind now. Putting stage right or something, but yeah, I'd have to look at James' catalog. And I'm not even going to remember. There it is. Yeah, so James wrote the parse Surefire. He's got a JDK manager, which we don't use. I guess maybe it's a different catalog. Zip utility query recursively information in zip. Yeah, I can't think of any just offhand other than that Surefire that we use. And I haven't used that in a while. But you can see the script here. Pigo CLI and JSoup. Probably yeah, he's going to be parsing or creating HTML. Yeah. Well, I won't read that script. We're doing to watch play computer. Yeah, so that's been pretty helpful times to have. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
For console applications, would there ever be a time where it's still better to use like a traditional Java app instead of JBang?
A traditional Java app.
Or just Java without JBang?
Oh, well, like what kind of application?
I'm just saying like because it seems like the advantage of this is less boilerplate, easier to get done.
It may come down to style choice. I have seen JBang scripts that for Java effect apps. So if you don't, I would say for smaller utilities, JBang is that sweet spot. As soon as you get into really complicated things, if you've got some sort of a GUI app that accesses, a backend AP system or something, and all these tabs and things, that might be better suited for a proper Java project. You get a little more natural code organization and packaging and stuff. This really is kind of targeted more just real quick utility type things more so than something that someone might run for an extended period of time. You query something, or you want to take the file, upload it, or convert from this format to that format, and that kind of thing. It really, as best I can tell from what I've seen, it really fits more into that. You're trying to script something, but you prefer to do it in Java, or it's easier to do in Java as opposed to, because I have written some scripts that do string manipulation or math in a bash shell script, and you can do it, but every time I do it, I have to Google. Is it curly or is it dollar per in? Is there a space? Just there's weird things like that. That's just it's not natural for me, just because I don't write those things all the time. But in Java, I know how to split a string or replace something in the middle of pretty easily and naturally. So.
Does it have like a way to call shell programs like some process?
Not JBang itself. The JDK does have. Let's see if I think it's called Process Builder. I am always hitting the wrong. There we go. Shift Command Plus, because of the browser, does play things bigger. Option Command Plus, Mac OS zooms in. It's like a quarter-inch difference, but it is. So Java 8 has Process Builder. I think there's a newer API in Java 11, maybe, that does that build. It does it a little more naturally, and you can read the results of the external process more easily in Java. So JBang doesn't have anything built in to do that, but JDK does in newer versions. Where JBang is really just more oriented for getting the script bootstrapped and dependencies running. And then you can, whatever you can do in Java, you can technically do in a JBang script. It might be more appropriate in a full-blown project. But
You work with the Kotlin integration at all?
I have not. I use Kotlin a lot, but almost solely these days in an Android context. Since I work on an application server, a Jakarta EE application server, I use Java all the time. So when I started working with this, and everybody I've seen writing scripts reaches for Java first. It says it supports Kotlin, and I have no reason to believe it doesn't. I just haven't personally tried it. We can try that real quick. Yeah, what time is it? Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I can't remember if it'll list the templates or not. JBang template list. Man, I should have guessed. Yes, it really is. Going blind here. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, like I said, it's nice though because now the class path is set up for me, so things are going to import. That's not refreshing, as anybody's guess. But if I don't do the -d, it just opens that file. I might as well just open it in VI because I'm not going to get any IDs for it. That's what I did. Yeah. Yeah. Just like you, you found it. And then when I was looking to see what people were saying about JBang and Groovy, and I was like, well, this is Groovy community, tapped out. It's like, where did Groovy go? Well, both of those people, I'm sure, are. If you're using Groovy and you're happy, then I'm happy for you. But I think also maybe Groovy has other options. But yeah, they've hit the pinnacle. Maybe they have other JBang-like options, but again, one of the real values of JBang is that it handles that class path creation for you, which I think is super cool.
Like times that I need to run something through the Java class, maybe not even a public one, maybe something for my own project with, go get my dependencies and run 3 lines of Java real fast in my Java. It seems like a perfect fit for just quick and dirty, like, I don't want to have to make a post back for me, but to make on XML, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 lines.
That's where, like, making a POM file, it's not hard, but that's a lot of ceremony for very little payoff. I was hoping Maven 4 would make that a little less verbose, but I don't think POM is going to be any simpler. But definitely. So yeah, so that's JBang, and there's JBang Kotlin. We can look at Groovy if you just really want to, but I've not looked at Groovy in a really long time.
The rest of it did. It was not just the fact that they made a commitment tool that they thought about the dev experience a lot. You can JBang init, JBang edit, all those little feature comforts.
Yeah.
They're just trying to take the noise out. So somebody spent a lot of time and effort on that.
Yeah. The guy that wrote this, Max, is one of the senior guys on the Quarkus team, and that team, not to make a product pitch, but very heavily focused on, I hate this term with the passion, developer joy. They want to make a tool that people want to use and kind of enjoy using, and I think that mindset kind of went into creating this. And just for the record, if you go on the site and look at the facts, this project started out as an attempt to how did you put it? He just kind of wanted to see what it would take to write shell scripts or something like, because he hadn't done that kind of thing for a while, and just one thing led to another, and here we are with JBang. Yeah, scratching issue, was curious, and then this came out of it. So, all right, it is 8:16. 8:16. Oh, yeah, I saw it's September 9th and kind of panicked. Have I been here for 2 hours already? So it feels like it. Any other questions? If not, we can wrap up and get out of here.
Are you going to share your presentation?
Yes, generally, I'll have a link. Here's a link to the presentation. However, I actually generated this using a JBang script called Quarkus Reveal.js, and it doesn't matter. But the presentation is actually just presentation.md. It's a markdown file, and then the JBang script does some Quarkus stuff and REST and pulling in all this stuff. But I can't figure out how to share the generated file correctly, so I'll figure it out and I'll post it on the meetup and on the jug list. So I can get something that's. It would. I know the guy that wrote that script, so I'll ask him, what's going on here? I thought, I'll just Quarkus Reveal export. Like, no such luck. And honestly, I looked at the REST service that drives that, and I have no idea how it works. Like, how is it actually generating the. Anyway, I just haven't had time to dig into it. But yes, I will somehow get a generated presentation that you can look at with, and I'll do that. So, if there are no more questions, then we'll get out of here. Make sure you grab some pizza, or I'll have to take it home.